come on up right up here in front of my clerk, sir. She's going to swear you in.
So, can you please state and spell your first and last name?
Sure, my first name is Nolan. It's N-O-L-A-N. Last name is McDermott. It's M-C-D-E-R-M-O-T-T.
Thank you. Raise your right hand, please. Do you do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
All right, have a seat up here to my left.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Sure, my name is Nolan McDermott. I'm a sergeant with the Gilbert Police Department.
How long have you been with the Gilbert Police Department?
18 years.
Where do you currently work?
I'm currently assigned to internal affairs.
Can you tell us about the different areas you have worked at the Gilbert Police Department over your years of service?
Yes, I've spent a majority of my time on patrol, both as an officer, field training officer, and a patrol sergeant. I've also spent time in our criminal investigations division, where I was a detective over special victims units and our violent crimes unit.
Now, over the years at the Gilbert Police Department, have police officers, both patrol and detectives, been responsible at times for processing the scenes?
Yes.
Did you have any training over the years on processing scenes?
Yes, both in the police academy and then through field training program, and then as well as just training with colleagues throughout various cases.
Back in October of 2019, what unit were you working in?
I was assigned to the violent crimes unit.
And were you a detective in that unit?
Yes.
How long had you been there at that time?
I was with that unit probably only about a year, but I'd been a detective for about 3 years at that point.
Were you on duty on October 2nd of 2019 at around 9:15 in the morning?
Yes.
And were you called out to 3875 East Phelps in Gilbert, Arizona, Maricopa County?
Yes.
What were you called out there for?
I was called out with other detectives initially reference a shooting.
Okay. And is that common practice for shootings?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall when you arrived at 3875 East Phelps Street, sort of what the scene looked like?
Yes, there was crime scene tape erected. There was several patrol officers out. Looks like they had taped off a crime scene around a particular residence and the street in front of the residence, as well as kind of bordering some homes next to the target residence.
What is the point of crime scene tape?
The point of the crime scene tape is to erect a physical barrier, both for the public to be alert that the police are on scene and conducting an investigation, trying to limit the amount of traffic, meaning both vehicle or people entering that crime scene, to keep it as sterile as possible.
When detectives are sent out to a shooting, are they each given different roles?
Yes, they can be. Each scene might be a little different, but generally we'll divide tasks up to process or investigate.
Okay. Were you assigned a role to process the crime scene?
Yes, I was participating in that.
Okay. Were other detectives then assisting you in processing the crime scene?
Yes.
Who were the other detectives who were out at the scene?
Detective Pillar was there and Detective Ferrer was there.
Okay. When you got to the scene, were photographs taken of the street, the vehicle, and any items of evidence?
Yes.
Why are photographs taken of sort of the scene, the street, and the area around there?
To memorialize both the scene and any evidence or any items of evidentiary value, either collected or observed at that scene.
Okay. When you go to a scene, do you always know what might be relevant?
No.
So do you take photographs to try to document something in case something becomes relevant later?
Yes.
In this scene, where was the vehicle located when you arrived, the vehicle involved in this shooting?
Yes, when I arrived, the vehicle was in the driveway of the target residence.
And when you say target residence, what do you mean by that?
The residence in which Mr. Boudreaux was residing at the time.
Okay. That's the 3875 East Phelps?
That's correct.
As you are photographing this scene, were orange cones, for lack of a better word, used to document the approximate location of where Brandon Boudreaux's vehicle was located when it was struck with the bullet?
Yes. Trying to provide a visual of what we thought would be the approximate location.
And so that has to be based upon just to the best of his memory.
Yes.
Was the area also looked, or did you look in that area where Brandon had indicated his car was when it was struck to see if maybe any glass or anything had fallen in the road?
Yes.
Did you locate any?
There was a small, looked like glass particle or shard that was in the roadway.
Okay. Was it similar to, well, let me ask you, when you went to the scene and saw the Tesla in the driveway, did you see the driver's side window anywhere?
Yes, the driver's side window was actually in the driveway, just adjacent to the driver's side of the Tesla. The vehicle was parked in facing towards the garage, and the window was adjacent to the driver's side door, with the void in the driver's side door where that window would be.
Okay. Inside the Tesla itself, did you observe pieces of the glass that had shattered?
Yes, there was glass shards both inside the vehicle and then outside the vehicle, adjacent to the splintered window.
And did those shards that you saw in the road where you put those cones look similar to the shards you saw inside the Tesla and around the door there?
Yes.
When you were looking at the window that was now on the driveway, did you look at it to try to see if there was any impact to it? What caused it or where it shattered from?
Yes, we did. There was a divot or a mark towards the top of the window would be, as if it were raised to the top of the vehicle frame or that door. There was kind of a divot, the best way I can describe it, that appeared out of place compared to the rest of the window.
Okay. For the Tesla itself, some cars have doors where there's a metal frame around the glass window. Was there a metal frame around the glass window for this Tesla door?
No, not for where the window would be for the door. The window was kind of by itself where it would extend or rise up into the frame of the vehicle.
I have, minus a few, exhibits 6, 8, 10 through 47. If I can have my paralegal approach with those. And have the witness take a look at these photographs. So Detective, you looked through Exhibits 6, 8, and 10 through 47. Do you recognize those as photos from the scene on October 2nd of 2019 of the Tesla and the Phelps Street and the area around there?
Yes.
State will move to admit Exhibits 6, 8, and 10 through 47.
No objection.
They're admitted. Did you get them noted?
When you are taking photographs of a scene, putting up Exhibit 6 here, do you try to take photographs showing the whole street itself? Meaning not just the one location where the car was or the Tesla itself. You're trying to get the whole area.
Well, yes, that's true. To be clear, I didn't actually take this particular photograph, but when documenting, we were trying to capture the area, give an overview of the scene.
Okay. So in this scene, can you describe for us sort of the directionality we're looking and what we see here?
Yes, the marked patrol unit that's sort of in the center at the very far end of this particular image, that's east of the target residence. The Tesla is on the right side of the picture in the driveway, and it is parked facing south. And those cones kind of in the center also east of the Tesla and the residence.
Were those cones the ones we were talking about in reference to the approximate location of Brandon's vehicle when he was shot at?
That's correct.
Exhibit 8 here, is that sort of a closer version of that?
Yes.
Exhibit 10, in your understanding, where was the Jeep located?
So the Jeep would be somewhat out of frame from here, but it was our understanding that it would be located kind of on the bottom left of this image.
Okay, so this is the driveway for Brandon Boudreaux's 3875 East Phelps?
Correct.
And so the Jeep was somewhere down here?
Yes.
When you were documenting this, did you understand then, was this meant to be sort of the front of the vehicle and the rear of the vehicle, approximately? And I'm going to put up 12 so we can see a better width of that.
I don't recall if those were marked to present in terms of the vehicle itself and the distance to the front and the back. I don't recall that specifically. The purpose of this was to give us kind of an idea, or at least to memorialize the scene for where we, our best understanding of where that Mr. Boudreaux's vehicle was at when the shooting occurred.
In 14 here, so again, this is at least supposed to be approximately where the Tesla was located?
Correct. And this particular image is from the other direction. So, for example, that patrol vehicle that's pictured in the center of that image, that's to the west of the target residence.
Okay. And so in this photograph, Exhibit 14, where did you understand the Jeep to be located?
Our understanding was the Jeep would have been in the vicinity of the shaded area, where on the south side of that street, parked, I guess, behind or in front of that white van.
Okay. I'm going to put up Exhibits 18 and see if I can. When you were photographing, or when this was photographing, did you all attempt to sort of document some of those little shards of glass?
Yes, that's correct.
And is that what we see here in Exhibit 18 right there?
Yes.
As well in Exhibit 19 here?
Correct.
Okay. And you said those were similar to the same type of glass you had seen in the vehicle and around the vehicle once it was parked in the driveway.
That's correct.
Was it your understanding, let me see, when you are trying to process a scene, do you get briefed on some of the general facts of the case?
Yes.
What does that mean to get briefed?
More often than not, detectives aren't the first on scene. Generally, a patrol officer would respond to take the initial information, and then upon the arrival of detectives, we would generally get a briefing from those patrol officers on scene with the best knowledge of the information they had at the time.
Okay. So did you understand or know the path of travel of Brandon after the shot was fired?
Yes.
What was your understanding of the path of travel after the shot was fired?
My understanding was Mr. Boudreaux continued west on Phelps Street to his first available street to turn on, which was Cole, I believe, and he made a right to go northbound from there.
This is Exhibit 1, sort of a map of that area. So west would be this direction?
Correct.
And then north on Cole.
Correct.
Did you understand that he eventually then came back, sort of making a big loop to return to his residence?
That's correct.
Now, we had talked about the vehicle itself. As a detective and as a patrol officer, had you ever seen gunshots or bullet holes in a vehicle before?
Yes.
And I'm going to go through the photos of the vehicle itself. I'm going to show you Exhibit 21. Can you tell us what we see here?
Yes, this is Mr. Boudreaux's vehicle. It's parked in the driveway facing south. The driver's side of the vehicle is facing away from us in this particular image.
Did you note any damage on the passenger side of Mr. Boudreaux's vehicle?
I did not.
We see in 22 the rear of his vehicle.
Correct.
Did you note any damage there?
I did not.
Were you looking for damage to see if there were any other gunshot holes in this car?
Yes.
Now, as you got to the driver's side, I'm going to put up at 23 and then 24, did you notice anything on this vehicle?
Yes, there was damage on the vehicle frame, kind of directly above the driver's side door and where the window would have been.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of do some closers up. 26?
Yes, the damage, again, being on that kind of the top end of the vehicle frame above where the driver's side door and window would be.
And 27? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, this is just a closer image of that same damage.
The victim had made a statement to 911 that maybe this was a paint gun that hit him. Did you see any paint or anything that would indicate this was a paint gun?
I did not.
Is this the type of damage you would expect to see from a paint gun?
No.
28, and then I'm going to go into 29. What are we seeing here? We see an A marked on that. What's that for?
That particular marker is just another indication to memorialize the scene. So the prior image was an image without it, and then this image is to mark it, just as another point of reference the damage we were identifying.
As we're looking at this, you were advised, were you advised when you were briefed that as Brandon was driving westbound on Phelps, that the rear of the Jeep was facing towards him? was facing eastbound.
Yes.
And were you advised that he said a rifle came out of the back of the Jeep and then fired a single shot at him?
Yes.
Looking at just the shape of this hole, you said you have seen bullet strikes or bullet holes in vehicles. Did that appear to be coming from front to back?
Yes.
So was it consistent, the damage to the vehicle, to show the bullet had come from in front of the Jeep or in front of the Tesla into the Tesla itself? Does that make sense? Probably not.
The damage I observed and the damage that's documented in this photo is consistent with Mr. Boudreaux's statement of him proceeding westbound with a rifle being pointed towards him, pointed east, and this penetration from that projectile is consistent with his story.
Okay. Now, when we talk about trajectory, what does that mean?
Generally, it's just the direction in which something might travel.
In this case, were you able to determine the exact direction of the rifle barrel out of the rear of that Jeep?
I was not able to determine exactly the direction of that rifle barrel out of the Jeep.
And were you able to determine the exact location of the Tesla in the street?
I was not.
So there was no video cameras to show that.
Correct.
So at best, can you say that the directionality of that hole, that bullet strike into the Tesla, is consistent with it coming from the back of the Jeep?
Yes, based on the information provided to us, it's consistent.
Now, as you were looking at this, and we see in 25 that there's no frame on the top part of this door, so the bullet strike, was that actually into the body of the Tesla itself?
Yes, that's a fair description.
So in order to look for the projectile, what did you guys do?
This particular photograph, right below that penetration point, is some rubber molding that was also damaged. That was consistent with that glass window maybe rising up and extending into the molding as probably part of the feature of the vehicle. So we moved some of that molding around to see if we could try to locate any projectiles.
I'm going to show you some photos from that. This is Exhibit 40. What are we seeing here?
This is some of that rubber molding I had mentioned earlier. There was kind of a groove in there, for lack of a better word, in that molding where it captured some glass shards, and we did find some fragments, metal fragments in the that groove within the molding as well.
So what we sort of see in here.
Correct.
Is Exhibit 44 sort of show what you're talking about, where you're trying to pull out all of this molding to look for any fragments of that projectile?
Correct.
And does 45 also kind of show that search where you're pulling that apart?
Yes.
Ultimately, were any fragments recovered?
There were some fragments recovered. This particular image just documents those fragments recovered from within that molding. That was documented earlier as well.
And were those collected and pounded?
Yes.
State has shown defendant 190. You can take a look at Exhibit 190 and let me know if you recognize.
Yes, I recognize it.
And on the back side, inside the clear bag, is there sort of the paper bag that documents that those fragments in there are from this case that we're discussing today?
Yes, the label on this particular bag is the report number referenced this incident.
Thank you. The state will move to admit Exhibit 190.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
190 submitted.
Thank you. Now, as you are trying to recover any fragments, you told us that the window sort of went up into this molding, or into the car frame almost.
Correct.
Given that you only found fragments, was anything done to try to see if any of those fragments or the projectile itself had fallen out at any point?
Yes, we, after kind of learning or being briefed on the path of travel that Mr. Boudreaux took in his vehicle following the shooting, we walked that area as well as the area immediately around the vehicle when it was parked in the driveway to try to locate anything additional in terms of projectile fragments.
When we're talking about projectile fragments, these could be teeny tiny little pieces that you're trying to find on the street?
In this particular instance, that's correct.
And now we're talking around a whole block and up to where the pool is.
Correct.
Did you and other officers search that whole area?
Yes, we did.
Were you successful in locating any other fragments?
We were not.
Was a metal detector even brought to try to search across the road and see if you could potentially find any of those fragments?
Yes, Yes, we did bring one out to try to locate anything additionally.
Was anything else found?
No.
Now, we had talked about inside the vehicle, and I'm going to show some photos here, 32. What were you documenting here in 33?
This particular image documents what I had mentioned earlier in terms of my observations. This documents some additional glass shards that were located on the floorboard inside the vehicle. That's the driver's seat.
Okay. 34, 35. So the window itself, I know you told us, was mostly together, but small pieces of it broke apart?
That's correct.
And that's the same type of small pieces you saw out in the road by those cones?
It appeared consistent, correct.
Did you see any other of those little shards anywhere else on the road other than where Brandon had indicated he was when his vehicle was shot?
Not that I recall.
Okay. In Exhibit 36 and 37, what are we seeing here?
This is just a particular rod that was inserted to try to give an idea in terms of a general idea of trajectory. Again, to kind of confirm what information we had from Mr. Boudreaux reference where the gunshot had come from in terms of then striking his vehicle. This is really just another visualization of that to memorialize it.
Okay. So again, without knowing, well, let me ask you this. In the back of a Jeep, if someone sticks a rifle barrel out, can they move the barrel at almost basically 180 degrees of angle? Is that yes?
I'm sorry, what were you asking?
If somebody sticks a rifle out the rear window of a Jeep, they could move that rifle barrel in basically 180 different degrees, correct?
Yes.
And you, because there's no video showing that, you have no way to know the exact angle that that rifle barrel was sticking out.
That's correct.
So this was just to help show the directionality, at least, of how that bullet entered into the Tesla.
That's correct.
Okay. And we see the same thing in 38 and then a closer up in 39?
That's correct.
Now, we talked about the glass piece itself. I have Exhibit 46 up here. And again, we see another sticker or marker with an A on it. What were we looking at there?
This is a image of the driver door window that was in the driveway at the time of our arrival. As I had mentioned earlier, we had noted a divot in the window itself. This particular image is depicting that divot as we've identified it with this marker that appeared consistent with the damage that we observed on the vehicle. Essentially our best estimate of where that strike point in the vehicle would have been to cause the window to shatter.
So when we look at the other edges of the vehicle, you didn't see any similar type of damage where the window has that divot and the more, it being more broken apart?
Yes, that particular divot, again, appeared consistent with what we were observing on the vehicle. So I didn't note anything different on the window that maybe could have accounted for the damage with the window being rolled up in the vehicle.
After processing the vehicle, did other officers look for any type of, or did you ever come back and help look for any type of surveillance cameras that might have caught anything?
Yes, we returned and conducted a kind of a canvass of the neighborhood. Myself and additional detectives did.
Did you personally find any videos that on Phelps Street or any of the surrounding streets that caught anything?
I did not.
During this investigation, did you learn who Lori Vallow was?
Yes.
Did you learn that she had a 2018 Jeep Wrangler with a Texas plate of LWD 0997?
I did.
Did you learn that she was, in October of 2019, living in Rexburg, Idaho?
Yes, I did.
Did you learn that her brother, Alex Cox, was also living in Rexburg, Idaho in October of 2019?
I did.
Through different records, did you learn that Alex Cox was residing at 565 Pioneer Road in Rexburg, Idaho?
Yes.
And did you also learn that Lori Vallow was living in that same complex?
Yes.
Did you reach out to local law enforcement in Idaho to help locate and impound that 2018 Jeep Wrangler?
Yes, I did.
When you were investigating this case, had you been advised by Detective Pillar and others that the Jeep, or that Brandon had noted the Jeep had a Texas plate on it?
Yes.
And had you, as part of the investigation, learned that Lori Vallow had resided in Texas previously?
Yes.
Were you advised that Brandon Boudreaux had told Detective Pillar on October 2nd that he was aware of an incident in Chandler, Arizona on July 11th of 2019?
Yes.
And in contacting the Chandler Police Department, did you learn that that 2018 Jeep Wrangler with the Texas license plates had been at the residence with Lori Vallow on July 11th of 2019?
Yes.
Did you then write up a probable cause statement and send that to the Rexburg Police Department to help write a search warrant so they could seize and impound that Jeep?
Yes.
And that Jeep being the 2018 Jeep Wrangler that Lori Vallow had with a Texas plate of LWD 0997?
That's correct.
Were you notified on November 4th of 2019 that At that time, Detective Hermosillo with the Rexburg Police Department had located and impounded the Jeep from 565 Pioneer Road in Rexburg, Idaho?
Yes.
And did you provide that to Detective Pilar?
Yes.
Was he the case agent at the time?
Yes.
And did you leave that to him to deal with processing the Jeep?
Yes.
Without going into what was said, on December 21st of 2019, did you speak with someone by the name of Colby Ryan?
I'm sorry, what date was that again?
December 21st of 2019?
Yes, I did.
Is Colby Ryan Lori Vallow's son?
Yes.
Did you learn that Colby had been given Lori Vallow's blue Nissan Rogue with Arizona license plate CRT 2994?
Yes.
Were you provided information as to where Colby Ryan had picked up Lori Vallow's Nissan Rogue?
Yes.
On December 26th of 2019, did you go to that residence?
Yes.
Was that here in Maricopa County?
It was.
Was that in Mesa?
It was.
Who lived at that residence?
I spoke with a Heather Blackmere.
Was it a Hannah?
I'm sorry, Hannah, yes.
Did you learn that Melanie Boudreaux was now remarried to Miss Blackmer's brother, Ian?
Yes.
And did you know that Melanie Boudreaux was Lori Vallow's niece?
Yes.
Was a search warrant obtained for that Nissan Rogue?
Yes.
And was that executed on December 21st of 2019?
Yes, it was.
Were photographs taken of that?
Yes.
Shown the defendant exhibits 93 through 98. Approach for the witness to review. Do you recognize those photographs, exhibits 93 through 98?
Yes.
Are they photographs of that Nissan Rogue that you executed the search warrant on that was Lori Vallow's?
Yes.
This is the Nissan Rogue that you had learned about through Lori Vallow's son, Colby Ryan,
That's correct.
and that you had spoken to Melanie Boudreaux's family about that it had been dropped off at.
I'd spoken to Ms. Blackmore referenced that vehicle.
State will move to admit exhibits 93 through 98.
Any objection?
Just relevant, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, it's relevant both because this vehicle is going to be seen in video in Idaho relating to the self-storage unit
Okay.
where items were stolen.
It's admitted. Those exhibits are admitted.
Thank you. So Exhibit 93, what are we seeing here?
This image is of that said Nissan Rogue, and this image is taken at the Gilbert Police Department property building.
And were photographs of the sort of whole vehicle taken that we see in 94?
That's correct. This is just a different angle, as well as this is a different angle of that same vehicle.
So we see a license plate on this vehicle of CRT 2994
Correct.
and was inside the vehicle during the search warrant. Did you obtain the registration or take photographs of it?
Yes, that's correct.
And was it registered to a Lori Vallow and Alexander Cox?
Correct.
And we see it was from September of 2019.
Yes.
Inside the vehicle, did you look through it to see if there were any receipts or anything of potential interest?
Yes, we did.
Inside the vehicle, did you recover a boarding pass or luggage receipt for a Melanie Boudreaux?
That's correct.
And that would have been from October 26th of 2019?
Correct.
So inside the vehicle that belonged to Lori Vallow was a receipt for a flight for a Melanie Boudreaux.
Correct.
And then did you also recover some receipts reflecting, Rexburg, Idaho, or Idaho Falls here from October 13th of 2019?
Correct.
And then October 31st of 2019?
Correct.
And again, Idaho Falls there.
Yes, that's correct.
So inside the vehicle that you recovered in December in Arizona were receipts relating to Idaho Falls, Idaho from October of 2019.
Correct.
Were you also involved in executing a search warrant on Alex Cox's residence in December of 2019?
Yes.
Did you locate Alex Cox's Ford F-150 at that time?
That particular vehicle was present during that search warrant. Yes.
It was present at the residence.
Yes.
And did that have an Arizona license plate of CPQUINT?
Yes, that's correct.
And was that vehicle located in Gilbert, Arizona?
Yes.
Was that vehicle later towed to the Gilbert Police Department?
It was.
And did a different detective later search that vehicle?
Yes.
When that vehicle was towed to the Gilbert Police Department, did you then obtain another search warrant to execute on Alex Cox's Ford F-150 on December 31st to allow a detective to remove an infotainment center?
Yes, that's correct.
And was that Detective Tom Olzak?
Yes.
And what was the reasoning for that?
The purpose of that search warrant and the assistance from Detective Olzak was to learn any information reference that electronic or infotainment device that maybe it's stored on that device, reference the location of that vehicle.
And did Detective Olzak take that infotainment system with him to analyze himself?
Yes.
I have no other questions for this witness.
Cross.
It's Sergeant McDermott? Is
That's
that
correct.
Okay. And you said that you've been processing scenes, Sergeant McDermott, for How long?
I've been a police officer for 18 years. I can't tell you exactly how long I've been processing scenes, but I've been in a patrol capacity and a detective capacity for approximately 16 of those 18 years. So I would have been processing numerous scenes for that time.
Okay. And were you a scene agent for this?
I would say I was one of several detectives there who could be classified as scene agents.
Okay. So, and you had mentioned before that it was you and Detective Pillar and one other person.
I had mentioned Detective Ferrer.
Oh, that's right, Ferrer. Okay. And when you were getting briefed by them, what time did you arrive at the scene?
I don't recall. It was sometime in the morning after the call had come out.
And who was there already when you arrived?
There were at least 2 patrol officers there upon my arrival.
So Officer Robb was there?
Yes.
And did she brief you at all?
I don't recall exactly who briefed me, but it would make the most sense that she would have.
Because she was first on the scene.
I don't know if she was first on the scene, but I know she was present at the time that I arrived.
Okay. And so who did you receive your information from after you got there?
Again, I don't recall specifically, but it would make most sense that Officer Robb would have provided it.
And do you recall her indicating that she didn't even think it was a gunshot?
I don't recall that specifically, no.
That she stuck her pin in the hole and said she didn't think it was a gunshot? You don't recall that?
I don't know that, no.
There was a picture that we looked at that had the one piece of glass in the street. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And then could that piece of glass have been moved by someone's shoe accidentally from people walking around in that scene?
It's possible.
Because there weren't any more pieces besides one piece of glass in the street. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then was that glass in any way, that one piece of glass, was it tested to see if that was actually part of the window from the Tesla?
No.
Could you tell if it was part of the window from the Tesla?
All I could say is it appeared consistent with the other evidence we had referenced that window on scene, but I can't tell you definitively if that one shard was from that window.
Like if it was the same color as most of the other shards?
It did appear to be the same color and was consistent with the rest of the shards that we observed on scene.
But it could have been from a Coke bottle kicked in the street or anything else like that?
I can't say that's not possible, yes.
And so did you use the location of that one piece of glass to try to determine where the Tesla was located at the time of the shooting?
That was one factor, yes.
But if it had just been kicked over there or moved accidentally on the bottom of someone's shoe, then it wouldn't indicate anything. Is that correct?
I mean, I'd have to concur that it's possible.
So all the pieces of glass that fell out, would that be consistent in your understanding? Wouldn't there be more than just one tiny little piece if there was a bullet explosion?
I can't answer that definitively to tell you one way or the other. I don't know how the physics of that would happen. So I don't know if I could honestly answer that for you.
But logically, there'd probably be at least a couple pieces, right?
Object to speculation. He's already indicated he doesn't know.
Sustained.
So when you arrived, where was Mr. Boudreaux?
I believe he was standing maybe outside the front door of the residence. That's my best recollection.
Okay. And who else was there on scene?
I recall Officer Robb was on scene. I believe Officer Bullock was on scene. I believe that was it.
Did you see the friends of Brandon that we saw in the picture of Mr. Boudreaux?
Yes,
you were
now
there?
that, I'm sorry, go ahead. Now that you've mentioned it, yes, I do recall Brandon having some friends there.
And how many friends do you recall Brandon having there?
I believe there were 2.
And where were they where were they when you observed them?
I don't recall that.
I mean, were they near Brandon or were they in a different location?
I don't recall specifically.
Do you recall them walking around in the midst of the scene, like in the driveway?
I don't recall that specifically, no.
So you did not observe them walking back and forth in the driveway?
I don't have any recollection of that, no.
Did you review the body cams from that day?
I have not.
You've never seen the body cam from Officer Rob?
If I have viewed it, I don't have any recollection of viewing it. So I don't have any particular recollection of watching those body cams.
Okay. Was there any glass in the garage?
Not that I recall.
Did you search the garage?
I don't have a particular recollection of searching the garage specifically. I can't tell you if it was searched or not by any other detective or officer there.
But you did not search in the garage?
No, not that I recall.
And the garage door was open when you were there?
I don't recall specifically.
And you don't, and with all the, excuse me, with all the reports that have been made, there's no report indicating that anyone searched the garage to your knowledge. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You had mentioned in your report about Brandon making a U-turn and following the shooter. Is that correct?
Correct.
But in your testimony earlier, you talked about he went around the block.
That's correct.
And so which is it? I'm trying to understand where the U-turn came in.
According to our information, what I understood it to be is Brandon, after the shooting, proceeded west on Phelps to Cole Street. He went north on Cole past Waite. Slightly north, there's a community pool there. He stopped in that general vicinity. And then as the Jeep proceeded north on Cole and then east on Waite, Brandon conducted a U-turn to on Cole to then go south and then east on Waite towards Fisher, I believe is the name of the street. That is that north-south street that runs just east of Phelps.
So after he pulled over by the pool, he did the U-turn?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay, so after he went on the pool, he didn't just go around the block. He turned around and went around the block?
Yes, eventually after conducting that U-turn is then when he went around the block to eventually make his way back to Phelps Street, where his residence was at.
And you indicated in a report that he followed the suspect briefly after that U-turn. Where did you get that information?
That was information we learned on scene that I believe Mr. Boudreaux had passed along to officers or detectives on scene.
And you don't know who that was?
I don't know specifically who, no.
And you don't know how you obtained that information then?
That was information I learned on scene. I don't know who, in terms of which officer or detective, obtained that specifically.
But you did not hear Brandon. Brandon did not express that to you directly. It was through someone else.
I don't recall Brandon expressing that to me directly.
Okay. So in your report, you say that you were unable to locate any projectile anywhere in the Tesla. Is that correct?
We located fragments. I don't think we did not locate anything in terms of a complete projectile.
And were those fragments tested?
No.
To see if they were actually bullet fragments and not part of the Tesla?
There was no additional testing done. Those fragments appeared consistent with a projectile.
In what way are they consistent with projectile?
The projectile, in terms of it potentially, in terms of making an impact on something, could disperse in fragments. Mm-hmm. To me, they appeared consistent with other fragments of projectiles that I've observed before.
And is that something that could be known through testing?
Potentially. I can't tell you a specific test. I just don't have the knowledge of a specific test could tell, but potentially.
So in our modern world, can't they test things and find out exactly what gun it came from, that kind of thing, projectiles?
Object again to speculation. He just said he didn't know.
Again, you can answer if you know, but if your answer is I don't know, just give your answer.
I'm sorry?
You can answer.
I don't know specifically.
But in your years of experience, have you ever tested projectiles to find out if they were actually bullet projectiles?
Generally, in terms of my experience in testing projectiles, would be more complete projectiles to try to determine if we could learn, just generally, where maybe what firearm it might have come from. But in terms of fragments, I've never personally, to my knowledge, tested anything additional in terms of fragments to learn. That's just been my experience.
And could it be known from a fragment if it was a handgun or a rifle?
Not that I know of.
So it could only be tested to find out if it was actually bullet fragment and not actually a piece of metal from the actual Tesla.
I guess you might have to rephrase your question, make sure I can answer it accurately.
Sure. So the projectile pieces itself that we looked at,
Yes.
they can only be tested to find out if they are an actual projectile from a gun.
I don't know the limitations in terms of the testing to answer that for you accurately.
And you work for the Gilbert Police Department, is that correct?
Correct.
And they generally, you would know as a detective of 18 years, like what kind of testing is available to your department, right?
Yes, generally.
And so why was it not tested or not looked into further to see what kind of bullet fragments those were, or if they were bullet fragments?
I can't answer that for you. I can just tell you that no additional testing was done.
And were you the one that took the fragments out? That
Yeah.
found them?
Yes.
And what is that process like? Tell me exactly what you did, how you took them out, how that worked.
Yes,
You
simply.
explain it.
My recollection was just locating the fragments in that rubber molding we had observed earlier and then just removing them and packaging them from there.
And you package them in like an evidence bag or Ziploc bag?
An evidence bag, yes.
And so how long did it take you to find those fragments?
I don't recall that.
Like more than 10 minutes?
I don't know.
And then you took those fragments out with your fingers or with a tool?
I don't recall. I think in that particular instance, my recollection is they were on that rubber molding, so I probably just removed them with a gloved hand to package them that way.
So you didn't have a tool in your hand or anything? You weren't like, I don't know what kind of tool it would be, so I'm just asking.
I don't recall having any tools to remove that, no.
So you found those 4 small fragments, is that correct?
I found fragments. I don't recall how many. What I believe what was ever in that particular evidence bag is what I had located.
And then they were put into an evidence bag. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then what happened to them after that?
They were impounded by Detective Ferrer.
So you handed them over to Detective Ferrer.
Yes.
And then where did it go from there? Do you know?
It was impounded at our property building.
That day?
Yes.
And then who would be the person in your department who would send those out for testing?
Well, any detective or officer could send anything out for testing.
Okay, it doesn't have to be the case agent.
It doesn't have to be, no.
So you being the person who actually extracted them from the vehicle, you could say, hey, let's test these.
I could, yes.
And you did not.
No additional testing was done, no, that's correct.
And why not? Why did you not request additional testing?
I don't know. What wasn't anything that came up for me to do.
So were you just under the impression that it was an actual bullet hole?
I don't know. Can you rephrase your question?
So you didn't test those because you assumed that it was a bullet hole and those were fragments from a bullet?
The damage on the vehicle was consistent with a penetration mark from a firearm and a bullet. The fragments located also appeared consistent to me with fragments from a bullet. That's my observation.
Could it have been from any other thing?
Yes, it's possible.
Like, could you have hit it with a tire iron?
Hit what with a tire iron?
The vehicle.
I guess I'm not sure I understand your question.
Could it not be a bullet hole at all? Could it have been hit with a tire iron?
The damage to the vehicle appeared consistent to me to be, again, a penetration point from a firearm and a bullet. There wasn't nothing that I observed to that damage to lead me to believe that it was anything else than being struck by a projectile.
But it could have been something else.
I don't think so. I think from my experience that the damage and what I observed is consistent with a penetration point from a firearm and a bullet.
Sergeant McDermott, when you got a hold of the Jeep, did you do any further trajectory analysis on it?
I'm sorry, you're referring to the Jeep?
Correct.
I never got hold of the Jeep.
You didn't go to observe the Jeep at all?
I did not.
Okay. Do you know who did go observe the Jeep?
Detective Pillar, Detective Olzak.
And were you ever made aware of any measurements of the Jeep?
No, I was not.
Did you measure the Tesla?
I don't believe any measurements were done concerning the Tesla.
Like how tall it is, how many inches?
No.
Would you be surprised that it's 68 inches tall?
Objection, relevance, speculation.
He can answer.
I don't know how tall the Jeep is. I'm sorry. I don't know how tall the Tesla is.
Would you be surprised that the Jeep is 66 inches tall?
Objection, speculation, he has nothing to do with the Jeep.
He already said he didn't observe the Jeep. I'll sustain the objection.
So the trajectory where you stuck the rod into, we looked at the picture, that was you that stuck the rod into the Tesla?
I didn't personally stick the rod into the Tesla, no.
Okay, you did not do the trajectory testing.
I did not stick the rod into the Tesla. There was no additional trajectory testing, if you will, completed.
Were you there when we looked at the picture? Were you there to observe that rod being put into the Tesla?
Yes.
And who did insert that rod into the Tesla?
I don't recall. I know it wasn't me, though.
But you observed it?
I was present when that particular rod was inserted, yes.
And from your understanding, they were testing trajectory. Is that correct?
I think, yes, that's a fair statement. We were trying to get another visualization of where we suspected that the projectile had come from based upon where the vehicle was located at.
So in all of your information that you're going on is basically information provided to you by Mr. Boudreaux.
I guess, can you clarify a little bit more what you mean by all of my information?
So your information on where the Jeep was, where the Tesla was during the shot is all from Mr. Boudreaux. Is that correct?
Mr. Boudreaux provided a statement to us. The physical evidence on scene was consistent with his statement to law enforcement.
Are you a trajectory expert?
I'm not.
Is there one on your team?
I guess, can you clarify my team?
Your department, I'm sorry. Is there one in your department, the Gilbert Police Department, that you know of? Someone who's a trajectory expert?
I can't speak specifically for any of our crime scene techs that the Gilbert Police Department employs. I don't know what their specific training is, reference trajectory. I don't know in terms of any other detectives in terms of their specific training. I can't answer that question accurately. I'm not familiar enough with their training.
Okay. So there's no one that you would say, oh, we have to ask Detective so-and-so because he's an expert in trajectory.
I don't possess that knowledge currently to say that, no.
Okay. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Redirect?
Let's talk about the physical evidence at the scene. The bullet hole in the Tesla. Was this, let me ask you this. You were asked a hypothetical by the defendant of someone hitting the Tesla with a tire iron or something. Why would that not make sense for what you saw?
As I had mentioned earlier, the damage to the Tesla that I observed was consistent with a penetration point from a projectile, consistent with a projectile from a firearm, just based on my observation and experience.
When you are looking at that, are you looking at the indentation to the metal on the vehicle?
There was indentation on the metal, on the vehicle frame. There was a scuff mark inside the frame of the vehicle that was also consistent with a projectile striking it, as well as some metal fragments we located, which were all consistent with the information we received in terms of a gunshot being fired.
The fragments inside, or that you located in that rubber molding, were those sort of copper colored? Let me find a photo of them 1 second. Exhibit 41. And I can provide you 190 if you need that.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I can have my paralegal approach 190. Having looked at Exhibit 41 and 190, did you observe copper on that?
Yes.
When you are talking about a fragment of a bullet, is that one of the, are bullets often wrapped in a copper around the actual projectile?
Some projectiles can be wrapped in a kind of a copper casing, yes.
So you were asked whether or not anything in this, when looking at these fragments, if they could have been pieces of the Tesla. As you pulled apart that molding and looked through the hole into the frame of it, did you observe anything else in that Tesla that looked like these type of copper fragments?
Inside the Tesla, I'm sorry to clarify.
Sure. When you pulled down that molding and you're looking through the hole, the projectile hole, and trying to find these fragments, did you notice anything else in that area that seemed consistent with these being part of the Tesla?
No.
In your experience in 18 years having fired guns and collected projectiles and projectile fragments from scenes, is this what a projectile fragment looks like?
Yes.
So there's nothing in the Tesla that looks like that, and this is exactly what you see as a fragment in your experience?
Yes, that's correct.
So when we're talking about the physical evidence at the scene, we're talking about the actual bullet hole into the car
Yes.
that in your experience and training is consistent with and looks like other projectile holes you've seen?
Yes.
And when we talk about the physical evidence, we're talking about the fragments,
That's one part of the physical evidence, correct.
and those were located in line with that bullet hole in the Tesla?
That's correct.
So when you're talking about what this projectile was from and what made this hole, are you looking at both of those things and saying this is made by someone shooting at the car?
Yes, the totality of the evidence is consistent and makes sense with, again, a penetration point from a projectile from a firearm.
When you talk about the physical evidence as well, are you looking at the windshield itself?
Well, we looked at the windshield. We also looked at the driver's side window where that penetration point was located at.
In terms of the glass that was located on the driveway, was that mostly, I'll call it, held together by the window tint?
Yes, there was a film that was keeping the shape somewhat intact.
The shards that you observed in the Tesla as well as around that window, were they of the same sort of color and some of them of the same sort of shape as the one you saw out in the street?
Yes, it appeared consistent.
You were asked whether or not you searched the garage. Did you have any information that anything had happened in the garage?
No.
So other than there being a garage to this house, the shooting didn't occur there, to the best of your knowledge?
Correct. There was no evidence to suggest that there was anything that had, any part of the scene had anything to do with the garage of that residence.
You were asked about whether or not the only information that said this shooting occurred was from Brandon Boudreaux. Do you agree with that?
That was information we received from Mr. Boudreaux, but the physical evidence on scene was also consistent with a shooting.
And did you ever become aware of a neighbor also putting a Jeep in the same location that Brandon Boudreaux had indicated it was?
Yes, I had learned that later.
Did you interview Brandon Boudreaux?
No.
So what you heard would be information either relayed to you in the briefing or later learning through Detective Pilar?
Correct.
You were asked about testing those projectile fragments. Did you have a rifle or gun to compare them to?
No.
In your experience, in your training, have you generally submitted projectiles or projectile fragments to try to compare them to see if they came from a gun?
Yes, we have submitted projectiles more completely. I don't have any personal experience in submitting fragments personally.
Did you have any doubt when you saw those that those were fragments from a projectile?
I did not.
And did you have any doubt when you saw that hole, that was a hole from a bullet or projectile entering into that Tesla?
No, I did not.
In terms of the trajectory, you've indicated that detectives, not yourself personally, put a rod into that projectile hole, correct?
Correct.
What was the purpose of doing that?
Again, as I'd indicated earlier, just another visual representation to kind of show what we believe to be in terms of the information provided on scene by Mr. Boudreaux of this rod being inserted into that penetration point to give another visual representation that it was consistent that the direction in which this bullet came from, again, without repeating it too much, was consistent with the information that we had.
Okay. So the projectile, the rod showed that it was coming in sort of, I don't have my pen anymore, but sort of into the front of that Jeep frame. I guess it would have been consistent with a vehicle being here shooting at him. Let me put it that way.
Yes, the penetration point and the evidence, specifically the damage to the Tesla that Mr. Boudreaux was driving, proceeding westbound on Phelps with a vehicle, which he indicated was the Jeep, positioned on the south side of the roadway, facing west as well. A gunshot coming from that vehicle, the Jeep, east towards Mr. Boudreaux as he's driving westbound. That information was consistent with the damage to the Tesla of this penetration point, again, which was be penetrating from west to east into the vehicle. That information was consistent with the physical evidence we observed on scene.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
Are there any questions for this witness from any member of the jury? Not seeing any, sir, you can step down.
If I may go get my next
ahead.
witness.